Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I am Joyo19 and I'm making this video as a form of overlook of the aftermath of the 2024 Republican presidential debate that took place on August 23rd. I made a 20-minute prediction for the consequences of that debate just a few days ago. I believe it was last week. You can go and check that out in my channel videos. But this video is an attempt to summarize what has happened in regards to the positions of the candidates polling who took place in that debate, and also overlook some emerging issues that have arisen over the past week. With that, let's begin. So I'll talk about the candidates that I focused on as part of that video, particularly DeSantis and Ramaswamy are the first that I'm going to touch on. One of my primary conclusions in that video was that DeSantis did not appeal as an exciting and young aspiring candidate. He didn't inspire excitement. Now, interestingly, I actually looked over some conflicting opinions to find that people generally saw Ron DeSantis as his performance as a success in that debate. As you can see, the polling disagrees, and of course you can't trust polling, but it is a generally quantitative metric to understand where the voting is going. Currently, DeSantis sits at 15.3, I believe. That's his current 15.6. That's actually been quite a bit better than he's been doing over the last few, about a month or so. But look at the polling position from the debate. That's August 23rd. Look how it stagnates, just completely. There's no movement at all. In comparison, you have who I believed was the victor of that debate, Vivek Ramaswamy, shift from 5.5, and this is before the debate, and then hit the debate at 4.7, and then prior to that, peak at 5%. Now, he's decreased over the last few days. My estimation with that is that there have been different kinds of critical analysis over what his appeal is. One of which that I have seen come to prominence is that he is just looking to become Trump's running mate in 2024. I may make a video on the possibility of that in the future, but I would not rule it out. I would think it's very prudent for him to go for that kind of line, first of all considering that he is a minority. Second of all, considering that he is a staunch conservative on many issues, in some far more than Trump. And I think that that would be a clever choice for his running mate in the election. Might appeal to a few different key bases. A third candidate that I want to talk about, of course we can't touch on Trump, he wasn't there, but a third candidate that I want to talk about in the debate itself was Nikki Haley. I sort of brushed her aside in my video, and I regret that, because having looked over her performance more intricately, I can say that she was another one that really appealed as someone who succeeded to capitalize on a more expansive base. She had a few key moments where she addressed herself as a real working politician. She was able to express an individuality of leadership in comparison to, as she described, talking men. She appealed, as Margaret Thatcher stated, as a working woman. That quote is paraphrased from her performance, but I think that's going to really help her. And the polling in 538's case, of course I'm using 538, it's usually a trusted source. I'm using her polling as a means to justify that. Look at how she changes from 3.4% on the debate day all the way up to 5.9%, 6.3%. That is incredible. That is an unprecedented shift. That's over almost double what she had in just a few days. In comparison, look at shifts like Vivek Ramaswamy. He grew, but his growth was gradual. He grew 3% or so over a period of a month. Look at people like Mike Pence. It's remaining relatively stagnant. Ron DeSantis. But instead, Haley got a surge. And a surge after a debate is exactly what you want in a primary performance. On the topic of Pence, there wasn't really anything from him, as I said. He will stagnate. and the rest of these candidates haven't seemed to have shifted. Chris Christie in particular has not shifted at all. In fact, he's moved a bit. He's moved from 3.5 to 3.8 and then back down again just recently, which is interesting, but it's to be expected considering that his base is largely consisted of a very particular demographic. I would expect, on the topic of dropouts, who I'm going to speak about in a second, people like Tim Scott, Hutchison, and Burgum, as well, and Hurd, to be leaving the race within a few weeks, if not next week. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. But look at what happened with Francis Suarez. He was a man that, in my tier list video, I stated could absolutely win the Electoral College if he became the nominee. There were several different reasons for that. I'd recommend you go check out the video itself. But now, last week, he's become the first major Republican candidate to drop out of the race. That means he's no longer in the running. Now, the reason for that is largely because of several public gaffes that he made in interviews. One with George Stephanopoulos, where he couldn't remember a demographic in China. And generally speaking, like Chris Christie, his base was one of a very core but very constricted demographic. One that is already appealing to other candidates such as DeSantis, Ramaswamy, or Nikki Haley, and other people like Tim Scott and Pence. It's broad to say that you want to appeal to the working class or suburban women. And that is exactly what his campaign message was. It was the first thing he said, basically, when he got out on the stage to announce his candidacy. But people like, if you can believe me, Nikki Haley, will also capitalize on that to a more effective degree. The last thing I'd like to touch on is the effectiveness of Trump's handling of his mugshot. I won't speak to his indictment, but I will say that there's an interesting drop right after the debate here, takes him down to 49.4, but he shoots right back up in the last week. And I'll tell you the reason for that. The reason for that is because the campaign's handling of the releasing and the handling of his indictment has actually helped him appeal to the sense that he has been wrongly accused of the crime. In this sense, Trump is now being seen as a rebel, someone who doesn't play by anybody else's rules. And I know that sounds broad, but generally speaking, that is what a lot of libertarians really appeal to. And it's going to be a crucial voting bloc and demographic for this election, considering that a lot of people see Joe Biden's presidency as totalitarian, or instituting policies at least in the Republican, that the Republican Party views as authoritative and repressing of individual rights. That kind of rhetoric is going to be very effective at energizing and galvanizing and mobilizing that portion of the Republican base. Therefore, as the GOP tends to allude more to that idea, broadly conservative people like Trump will become more popular. It was something that DeSantis hitched his campaign on, but the problem is he focused too much on the social issues to appeal to working class libertarians. He could have done very well to appeal to something like the COVID mandates and end up coming out with a very positive view from that demographic, and he could still well be in the race at this point. He might still be around 30%, or gaining on Trump, or above him. Nobody knows, because it's been such a disastrous campaign. So that is all I'd like to talk about for this video. It's been a very broad video, I apologize. Short one though, as I said in my video thanking you all for reaching 1,000 subscribers. It's now surpassed 1,061 last time I checked. That the schedule for this month is going to be very chaotic. The reasons for that are in that video. But I'm going to try and get out as much content as possible, particularly for the upcoming debate in just a few weeks. I feel like that could be a game changer, considering the effects that we saw after the first debate for people like Haley and Ramaswamy. With that said, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.